All right, here we go. Let's take a look here. So we're heading over. It is Thanksgiving, so we're heading over to our traditional gobble site full of turkeys. And of course, the turkeys are always interested in getting more out of their product. And they heard a rumor that autofill columns are free until December sometime here. So they decided to use them for today's demo. So here we go. So the first thing we're going to need is a document library. So let's create a new document library. All right, we'll just create a blank one. We're going to call this gobble, naturally. Oh, that already exists. Of course it does. Gobble. Gobble-y. Perfect. That won't get confusing. Perfect. All right, so we create that. Now we've got a new document library here. And I can, of course, upload a document or whatever I wanted here, but I'm going to just add a column to show off our autofill, right? So if I have a text column, and I hit next, you'll see I've got this autofill option. How did I get this? So I'm not going to go over all the steps, but if you're in your admin center, if you go down to setup here, and then you scroll down eventually down to the billing and licenses section, you can activate your pay-as-you-go services so that they can find a way to make you pay. And then after you've done that, of course, you can show all here. And if you're coming down to your settings, your org settings, you've got a pay-as-you-go services down here. And when you click that, you can see that I've got mine set up here already with my Azure subscription behind the scenes. Just using my Visual Studio one because it's my dev tenant here. And then I've got various settings here of what all that means. And here's autofill columns. Now, by default, that's going to be turned on for your whole tenant, right? So that's great. But if you want to just control exactly where that happens, right, you're trying it out here, you can put it in selected sites. That's how I got it. Wow. Oh, therell be some links at the end for that. Okay. So what do we do with that, right? So the way autofill columns work is we're going to upload a document. The AI is going to look at that document, and then I'm going to give it a prompt, and it's going to answer that prompt for me and fill out a column with it. So that's exciting. So let's just call this turkey because it is Thanksgiving here in the U.S., of course. So we'll call ourselves a turkey here. Well, we'll call ourselves a turkey. We'll say on. Now, for single line of text and multi-line of text, it'll use a generator prompt here. It may come up here in a minute. It's going to think about it. Of course, we don't have any documents, so that's part of the problem. So let's actually add a document before we do that. Let me drag a document over here. Where's my? There we go. We're just going to drag this manual of how to do strapless grenades. That's important. All right, strapless grenade launcher for horses, naturally. All right, now let's add that column after all. So now we've got a test document. Now when we hit autofill on our turkey column, so the name of the column will be used in generating part of this. You can see the column name is automatically utilized as context information. Right, but now we could ask a prompt here, right? So it's suggested one here, extract information about turkey mentioned in the document, because it just assumes I want to know about turkeys because I've named the column turkey. Well, I don't! What a terrible idea. All right, instead we're going to say, what is a fun occupation of I don't know why I'm using that voice, of someone who would like to read this document, right? Now, if we were to test that, right, it'll think about it. It's going to look at this document uploaded. A fun occupation could be military technology enthusiasts, right? Because it is about strapless grenade launchers, but that's not actually what I wanted to output. So I can direct it. So I've asked it this question, but now I can go further, right? I can tell it to respond with, or I can say only respond with, because if I say just respond with, it'll tell me about the occupation, then it'll answer this next question. So I'm going to say only respond with an image generation prompt of a turkey dressed as this occupation. Wow. So let's test that. So now it's going to take a look at that again and just kind of say, oh, there'll be a news reporter apparently. Ah, sure, that's good enough, right? So that is what we're going to use here. So when we save this, now we get this turkey column, and it'll look at it and it'll do some autofill for us. In fact, let's go ahead and drag another couple of documents over here just so we've got them in there. All right, so let's grab, I don't know why not. Let's grab our basketballs and stuff. Classic. All right, so then we'll take our basketballs. Let's add a dinosaur coloring book. Why not? That sounds exciting. Right? And so eventually these things will be updated with turkeys, right? So now we can always take a look at what's happening there. So we could say autofill columns, view recent activity. I have no activity apparently, but we'll give that a moment here. We'll just refresh that just to be certain. Oh, come on now. The other thing you can always do is you can come into autofill columns, and you could say autofill if you don't think it's been triggered for some reason. Which, you know, we'll see. We'll give it a moment here. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and create a small format, because this just becomes a text column, right? So all that happens in the background, there's various columns. There we go. Various columns that are supported, right? But this is a column. I can apply formatting to it. So that's exciting. I can reference it in other formats, right? Just for reference, we're going to go ahead and put a quick little format on here just temporarily so that we can see what that value is while we're messing with it. So I'm just going to add a quick little format where I'm going to say, hey, let's make it a div. All right, we're going to say it's a div, and we're going to say our text content is just the value of the turkey column, right? That way, we can see it no matter what we do with this column over here. All right, let's just save that. We'll remove that later. Great. So let's see. How's our autofill happening here? Do my recent activity. Just the one here so far. Well, we'll give it a moment to see if it comes up with these other ones. But in the meantime, we've got a column to work with here. So let's go ahead and format this guy. So what we want to do is we want to represent when this thing is loading, right? Like these, right? So it makes it obvious that this is something's coming here. We're just waiting on it. So what we can do is we can start with a lovely format here. I'm going to turn on my enhanced formatter just so I can see it auto apply as we're going. All right, so that is an extension, right? We've mentioned it a number of times on here. This is the SP formatter. It is free from Microsoft Edge and Chrome, and it just makes it so you can type things here, or work with VS Code, all sorts of fancy things, right? In our case, we're just going to say elm type div, and we're going to restore the curly brace we just killed. There we go, right? And then we're going to say our style for this guy, so we can have some styles. There we go. We're going to put a width and a height. We're going to fix these widths and heights, and it'll make more sense why we're doing that in a little bit. But I'm just going to make a big box that's 128 by 128 pixels. All right, so there we go, 128 pixels, boom. So now I have a box there. Wowee. All right, and then we're going to come down here. And what I like to do is I like to create children. That's a funny sentence. I mean, I did do that. I've got 3. All right, here we go. All right, so now we're going to create some children in here. Let's put a div, right? And so inside this div, we're going to also have more children. We love our children. All right, what we're doing is we're creating a little loading type screen, right, that just indicates that we're loading here. Let's fix that. That looks terrible. Let's add a little comma on the end there. We can always say format document. It didn't work. That's all right. Oh, it's because I'm here. Let's give ourselves a little space here. What are we doing? Anybody see? Where's my cursor? Oh, well, I guess we're not going to get into space. Turn that off. Maybe we get space that way. Nope. All right. Well, that's all right. We'll just do it ourselves. We'll do it live. Perfect. Okay, so we'll add a div here. And now we're finally going to add something that'll be visually, available. Attributes. There we go. There we go. Put that guy there. We're going to say an icon name. Now, I want an icon that, there's a bunch listed here, but I want one for loading. So if I head over to a site like Flycon, right, I can just search for something like if I want loading, I'll say load. There's one. There's a couple of them. This one looks good. Progress ring dots. I'm just going to copy the name of that. There we go. And some icon name is progress ring dots. There we go. I've got a very tiny little progress ring dots there. Wowee. Right, and let's make that a little bigger by applying one of our standard classes to it. So let's say MS font size XXL. Perfect. There you go. That's beautiful. All right, and then we'll add another child in here for the text. All right, so we'll say doop. We'll say elm type is another div because I love the divs. Perfect. All right, and then we'll just say text content on this guy is going to be gobble because it's a turkey site. You could also put loading. You can put all sorts of things, right? Now we can make that look a little prettier. I'm just going to copy and paste this so that I don't type all of these styles for you. Right up here, we'll create a little style element. All right, and then we're going to apply just some styles to make it a flexbox display so that it aligns everything nicely. There we go. Perfect. So by doing that, right, we've got display of flex. We've got our flex directions column, and we're lining items to the center. That looks lovely, right? So now it just says gobble while it's loading. I'm going to save that to see if I can refresh this, see if we can make that a little bigger. There we go. All right, column settings. Let's format this column. Okay. So now we've got this kind of background element, right, that sits here. We haven't gotten these filled out for whatever reason. I'm just going to go ahead and ask them to fill out while we're doing it. It's probably because I tested with these exact documents before. So very still. Oh, several hours. Well, hold on, everybody. Sorry, Hugo. That's just how it's going to be. You know, now that is true, right? If you're processing a lot of these can take a long time. They get added to a queue, right? You can also view your autofill activity here. I found they generally work very quickly, so this is upsetting, but we'll see how that goes. Okay. Oh, there we go. A turkey dressed as a paleontologist. Perfect. So we've got a little image generation prompt here. Now, what are we going to do with that? So now we've got ourselves a loading type icon here. We want to replace that with a value that's based off of the value inside turkey. So I've got a lovely thing we're going to do where we're going to put an image over it. So let's just go ahead and create that image element down here. So we're in our second child. We're in the main div here. We've got children. Here's the first one. That's our whole loading thing. All right, let's add another child here. And this will be our image. All right, so we're just going to say elm type of image. All right, there we go. And we're going to say, the attributes of that. Ooh, attributes. There we go. Right, where we could say the source, for instance. That's going to be where that image comes from. Right, and then we're going to type in something there, and then we can put a title. Right, so we're just going to put a title. That'll put our tooltip of at current field. Right. So there we go. Now it's a broken image because I didn't actually specify anything, right? But you can see that now we've got that prompt showing up as the title, and the broken image shows that prompt. Okay. So if we wanted to grab, say, image, just so we can have a placeholder. I've got my Teams thing doing here. There we go. Let's go to our, let's go a little further down. The hidden Teams sharing things got me. Okay, there we go. So I've got this dummyimage.com, just lets you create a quick dummy image you can link to. So I can copy the link to that. You can configure it. Mine says wowee, as should yours, of course. All right, and we'll paste that in there just so we can get this positioned the way we want it. There we go. Oh, well, that's not going to work because I have not approved dummyimage.com. So you may be surprised to see that images hot linked here don't come over, right? In fact, they'll get blocked, and if we were to inspect this image, right, if we were to do something like, press F12 or, whatever the actual command is, and then we were to inspect that element right there, and we took a look at our image, we'll actually see, why did it come over? Because it's an untrusted source. We can't actually hot link from dummy image or anywhere else. Why? I will show you how to fix that in just a moment. Worry not. Right, but that's the idea. We can position an image on there, or we could just grab an image off our site. For now, we're going to skip that, and I'm going to show you something else we could do, right? So let's just go ahead and fix this element up. I'm going to go ahead and replace all of this by taking a look over here at this website here. This is called Pollinations.ai. It is free. And you don't even have to have an API key. You don't have to sign up. You can. And I'll show you there's a benefit to it. But it's free. And what it does is it generates images using AI because we all need more AI slop in our SharePoint libraries. Naturally, right? So kill the tree, whatever you got to do, get this working, right? So if we take a look at the documentation for this, you can see what they've got is this image generation API that lets you generate an image off of a URL. Ooh! Right, so you put the image and then you put your prompt right after it, right? So in this case, we'll just put it on a new line. We'll say turkey driving a tank. Naturally, that's what we would want, right? So that would be our prompt. And then you can see there's other options here as well that we could change around. So let's add some things. So we would add that with a question mark, right, to make this a query string. Just for our first one, we're going to say width equals 128, and we're going to say, then we put an ampersand, right, when we want to add another one, and height equals 128 as well, right, and then we could do things like setting enhance, and enhance, this like CSI, enhance, all right, equals true. All that really does is it makes the thing a little better, right, the prompt, if the prompt isn't great, it's going to improve it and make it fancier. Right, we can also do things like if you've signed up for a account like I have, you can say no logo equals true, and I'll show you how it understands who I am in just a moment. And then I'm going to say and private equals true, and the only thing that does is it keeps my images from showing up in their little live feed of like, hey, look, people generated these images. Now all I do is I'm going to combine all of that into one beautiful link. I just deleted my question mark. There we go. Boom. Now I've got ourselves a beautiful link. And if I copy that and I come up here All right, I should be able to just paste that in here, and let's see what happens. All right, let's see if we get ourselves an image generated in just a moment here. So while that is loading, we'll take a look at the auth side of things as well. So if you sign up, I had to sign up with my GitHub account. It's free, but it allows you to then specify a refer a domain. And in this case, I can specify the Chriskent, which is my tenant, right? When I specify that domain, then it gives me, instead of every 15 seconds, I can generate these every 5 seconds. Wow! And it also lets me do things like not have a logo on there, which actually, now I just realized I put that on here. That might be a bit of a problem, but we will see. All right, while that's doing that, I'll just give you an example that I generated before. Look, here we go. There's a tiny turkey wearing lederhosen. Wow, based off of the URL. So that's pretty cool that we can do that, and we can use that in our format. Right, and in fact, we can even take advantage of another piece here. You'll notice they have this idea of a seed, where we can make sure that we get the same image every time. Well, I'm not sure if that's a turkey draw. It's a tank from Turkey. That actually makes a lot of sense now that I think about it. Woo! Hilarious. All right. But that's the idea, right? So we can add a seed and make that exactly what we want. All right. So using that information, let's head on back over here to our Gobble library, and let's enhance once more. So I'm just going to copy this over, and we'll take a look at this format once I've applied it. There we go. So the primary difference here now is I've made the top element, right, hide the overflow. I've given it some border radius and a position of relative, which is important because down here in the image, I've positioned that absolutely, right? And the other thing I've said is if it does not have the value yet in Turkey, don't show it, right? Otherwise, show it. But again, we still have this problem where image.pollinations.ai is not allowed. So let's just grab that guy, copy that, and then we're going to save this, which I got to do that. There we go. Save, just so we don't lose it. There we go. In fact, let's go ahead and grab a couple of documents while we're waiting here, just for fun. Let's grab laser eyeballs, throw that in there. And reptile tags, which I think will take a long time. It's a 90 megabyte file, so it should take a while just to even upload, let alone process, right? And then, of course, we can take something like a silly story and throw that in there too. Okay, so while that's doing that, I'll show you how to fix this issue. All right, so some of you might have even guessed. All right, but let's see. If we go over to our site set information to get to our site settings. Yeah, that's fine. I'm sure it's all fine. We're going to go down to our HTML field security under our site collection administration. Now this, you'll see here, it's all about the external iframes, and that's true, but it also affects where you can hot link images from inside your format. So we just have to add our domain here. Now always trust a guy on the internet telling you to add a domain to your, it's totally fine, just trust it. It has AI on the end. How could it be bad? Anyway, take a look. This is a dev site. Yeah, take it all with a grain of salt. It is Thanksgiving after all. Okay, so image Pollinations.ai added in there. And so now we're hit OK, and that should save that. Now if we head back to our, there's our site contents. So we look for our Gobble document library. There we go. We'll see if we get that image loaded here. So it's thinking about it. So the first time it loads, it'll take just a moment. And while it's doing that, let me show you one more thing inside that format. It's generating those images for us. All right. We see that I have thrown on here the seed equals, and I've put a number on the modified date. So that means that the images will not get regenerated until you modify this item, right? So it should be able to pull back the same image by using that same seed, and you'll start to see these things come in. So that's pretty cool. So you can see this one hasn't shown up because we haven't actually finished this one. This one, I'm not sure, it hasn't generated that image yet. But that's pretty cool, right? So the idea here is we can use our autofill columns, and we combine those with some pretty fancy techniques from our formatting and get all sorts of exciting things from that. Let me remove that because that's silly to have that on there. Okay, there we go. But you can see, oh, there we go. They start to pile in, and you'll even see that when I refresh, they should still be there. Yeah, there they are. Perfect. Wowee! That's it for me. All right, back over to you, David.